create a safe streaming. I'm gonna stay here for 1 hour and a half, and I'm going to research I'm gonna research the stuff that I need to know to write the article, my first article. And I think I'm gonna have to redo everything on the website because I received some feedback and I think it doesn't look good based on what people told me. Like, I think I focused too much on the design, and what matters the most is the responsiveness and how fast it is. So I think that the images are kind of like a waste of, not waste of time, but it makes the website slower and it doesn't look that good, I think. So I'm not really sure what is the best way to improve it, but I think I'm gonna have to redo everything. I think I'm gonna leave the structure, the stuff that I used for creating the categories and the whole layout of the website. But I think I'm gonna change the theme and then I'm gonna remove the images from the cards, and I think I'm gonna remove the images from the backgrounds of the pages. But before I do that, I think I'm gonna start writing articles because I wanna have, I think is I already spent a lot of time building the website. So I wanna at least create a few articles. Maybe not a few, I think I'm just gonna create this one to be honest, and then I'm gonna start working on changing the whole layout of the website tomorrow, I think. And I should put more emphasis on making it responsive, I think, and fast, and the rest doesn't matter that much. But I still think I was contemplating whether or not to get WordPress because I know that WordPress is the content management system that is used the most by people that are writing blogs. But then I think it's better not to. I think it's better to make the effort to create something on my own because I think what this is gonna be harder at first initially, but in the future it's gonna pay off because it will allow me to uh, customize everything the way that I want, and also I'm gonna learn a lot in the process by building this stuff. But obviously the downside is that it's a lot slower, so I'm not really sure which one is the best route to go, to be honest. But if I have a bunch of money, then I think it would be easy to just do go through the WordPress route because you can just buy a bunch of tools, SEO tools and things like that. But then it would cost thousands of dollars to get all these different tools, and obviously I don't want to do that. So I'm gonna create everything on my own here, I think, on this one, and I'm just gonna improve it slowly. So change the entire layout and then try to see from other websites and the SEO stuff that they do, and also try to make the site faster. And images make it very slow. So I think that was a big mistake. I shouldn't got Midjourney for this because now, but obviously I can still use the images on the articles and I can still create images for the articles, but I think I'm gonna remove all of them. The main priority is gonna be to make the site as fast as possible, I think. And then the only thing that matters after that is the content and the responsiveness, I think. So content first, then I think how fast it is, and then responsiveness. Or maybe responsiveness comes first because it has to be good for mobile. But yeah, the creating this is gonna be a challenge as well. Creating the articles on this thing here because it's like it's not very big, and I have to maybe I should look into a solution for this as well. Yeah, I think I should probably look for a markdown editor. I think I've seen one now from another guy, a post about Solidity from some guy on Twitter. I think I'm gonna search for a markdown editor and I'm gonna write on the markdown editor and then I'm gonna paste the thing here, because writing here is probably not going to be the best. Because you have to keep going here on this thing. That's the thing, I really don't know which is the best way to go about it now. Because the main resistance I have to doing WordPress is because it doesn't allow me to incorporate anything that I know from coding. I obviously don't have experience with that, but I know that it uses PHP and jQuery, which I know is not is very old. So I think that, but the issue with this one is obviously that I have to write everything here, which sucks as well. So which one is more important?
It's going to be about ChatGPT and OpenAI. I'm going to be showing you an amazing way to create very quick and very easy blog posts using this tool. Go on Google and type in AIPRM Chrome extension. Download this Chrome.
I think speed is very important as well, especially nowadays because AI is gonna grow exponentially, and that's the problem because the more time passes, it grows exponentially. Then people that have money, it just scales up exponentially. It creates more polarity because the system is not balanced. So it's kind of like hard to know what's the best path to go. Yeah, this section I think I'm gonna leave like this because I do think it looks good and the images are good. But I think that's the only section I'm gonna leave like this. The other ones, I think I'm gonna remove the images and just put a white or black background. And then remove the images from the cards as well.
Extension and then go to chat.
Oh, I forgot to put the time here.
GPT. This tool adds these prompts for SEOs. But what I actually want to show you is how these prompts work and why they're going to change SEO forever. Let's just take this one here, keyword strategy. So click on keyword strategy. I typed in the other day best sweaters and I pressed enter. What I learned from this tool blew my mind. Firstly, it can create tables, which I didn't know before. You can see this is completely insane. But what's even more interesting is the way that these prompts work. And prompts are going to be the #1 skill when it comes to AI in the future. You mark my words, prompts. What are prompts? Prompts are the way that we talk to AI. They are basically instructions for the AI, okay? So the idea is the better the prompt, the better the outputs, which means there's a huge difference between saying, write me some good keywords for best sweaters like I did before, or using these prompts. The thing is, it seems like you can't see what the prompt is here, but I actually worked out exactly how to see the prompt here. So I'm gonna press continue here so it just stops writing, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this save, I'm gonna click off it, and then I'm gonna click on this content plan. This is the prompt, guys. Look how insane this prompt is. Let's break this prompt down so we can see how we can use it and how we can abuse it, and I'm gonna show you how we can get ChatGPT to write a very concise and very good article. So I want you to act as a market research expert who speaks and writes fluent English. Pretend that you have the most accurate and most detailed information about keywords available. Pretend that you are able to develop a full SEO content plan in English. I will give you the target keyword best sweaters. From this keyword, create a markdown. Markdown is HTML without the coding, basically. Table with a keyword list for an SEO content strategy plan on the topic best sweaters. Cluster the keywords according to the top 10 supercategories and name the supercategory in the first column called keyword cluster. This is best sweaters, that's the cluster. Best cashmere sweaters, okay? Best sweaters for men, best sweaters for women, best wool sweaters, best sweater brands, how to care for wool sweaters, etc., etc. Add in another column with 7 subcategories for each keyword cluster or specific long tail keywords for each of the clusters. List in another column the human search intent keyword. Commercial, these are all going to be buyer keywords, okay? This is informational, the rest of them are buyer keywords. Then in another column, write a simple but very quick and enticing title to use for a blog post about that keyword. Then in another column, write an attractive meta description. Okay, this already is a service that you can sell to people for hundreds of dollars. Just this table alone, you can then back it up with the keyword research using Google AdWords, Keyword Planner, whatever it might be. I guarantee you that this content created here is already good enough to sell. Okay, and let me show you an example of this. So you may or may not know that I am a professional SEO for a company. I recently created this entire website for the company that I'm working for. The website I made is twomen.it or 2men Italia, and if I scroll down and if I go on this article here, okay, I wrote this article in 3 minutes using ChatGPT. I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. But is this article on Google? I actually don't know because I haven't checked since I uploaded this article, but we are about to find out. Of course, it's on Google. That's amazing news. That doesn't mean it's getting any traffic yet, but it does mean that the article has been indexed on Google, which means it's now available for getting traffic. Everything you see here, this is all AI. Okay, I've written everything with either ChatGPT or Jasper, depending on how far back you go. But most of it is ChatGPT. So what I actually worked out was that the most useful thing we can learn for ChatGPT is actually the prompt. A lot of people are worried that their job is going to be taken. Okay, and I understand that you think that your job is going to be taken. But I have 2 points to make against that. Number one is if your job is at risk from AI, you are not good enough at your job. Okay, so you're not.
I disagree with this take a lot, actually, because it doesn't matter. That's the biggest issue, is that, well, there's two things with this. One is that regardless of how good you are, it doesn't matter, because if most people don't have a job, then the whole economic system is not sustainable, because you can't just say to like hundreds of millions of people, or let's say that 10 million people are not good enough to still have a job. That maybe that's is still acceptable. Let's say that nothing changes, but it's just gonna grow exponentially with time. And even if you are good at your job, then AI is gonna increase, it's gonna advance exponentially as well. The more data we have, and we're gonna just keep generating more and more data. And even if the algorithms don't become better, the GPUs will probably become better because of the AI designs the GPU in a better way. And regardless of which path you go, eventually it reaches a threshold where the system is not sustainable. So that's the biggest problem.
Good. What does that mean? That means I am a professional content writer, I'm a professional SEO. I have no fear that my job will be taken by AI because I'm good enough at my job that my boss will need me at least for the next 5 years until they create some kind of super AI robot that does literally everything to do SEO. But my second argument against that is you have to adapt. You have to adapt. What does that mean? That means that you can become the expert in AI. Okay, prompts is going to be a huge niche. Being able to create prompts that give people the content they want is a crucial skill in the AI revolution, and it is a revolution, guys. I'll tell you that right now. So what I actually did was I took this prompt and I turned it into something that would give me exactly what I was looking for. Okay, and let me show you how I did that. So what I did was, instead of saying, whoever made this wrote details incorrectly, which really annoys me for some reason. Pretend you are able to develop.
There's another thing I was thinking about as well, about this whole ChatGPT thing, and how everyone's gonna start using this, or it's already using to gain SEO and create content and stuff like that, is that there is a feedback loop system where the computation of the internet is pretty much the computation of the collective consciousness, which is the biological computation that happens when a human being receives data from the environment based on the electromagnetic field configuration of the synapses in the body. It becomes computation, which becomes abstraction, and then the signals are being passed around through cables, and that's the internet. And then what AI does is that it gets all these inputs. So it gets all the data parsed by human beings through the biological gates that are bodies. And then it puts that on the machine learning algorithms, and the machine learning algorithms start to create the content. So it's like a change on the feedback loop system where it goes from biological to silicon, and then it changes the whole feedback loop system. So now, because everyone's going to be using AI because AI is better to create content, to do everything, then it's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy where the data generated is going to be all based on AI, because everything that you see online is going to be mostly done by AI. So that's another thing that I'm not really sure, because unless you encode some fundamental principle or something that allows the AI to learn by first principles and to have some degrees of freedom over this feedback loop system, is going to become a vicious cycle, because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But you can make the argument that that's the same thing that happens with human beings, because the whole scientific paradigm is a self-fulfilling prophecy because of the nature of knowledge. It's all a bunch of connections of cause and effect relationships that are relative to the observer that is experiencing them and creating abstraction based on them. So that's pretty much what physics is, and everything on science is. So the same thing happens, I think, here, where like it doesn't matter if the AI becomes conscious, but because it can overfit all the data, because there's a massive amount of data. So there is a critical point where the density of data makes it so that it doesn't matter whether or not it overfits or underfits, because it's like saying that even though you can't really tell if physics is fundamental law of the universe because you can never predict the physics itself using physics. You can never predict a system using the system. You can never predict the reliability of a system using the system because the moment you have a system is already a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if you would predict the system with the system itself, then it's a bias by nature. It's kind of hard to explain, but so you can't use physics to predict how reliable physics is, but it doesn't matter because as long as the degree of density is high enough of the information, then it's reliable enough that that's the best you can do in a sense, because ultimately it doesn't matter then after that point if you can't predict or not, because if you can't predict, then it's pointless because you can't create a system around it. So pretty much the moment that the data gets to that critical point where it doesn't matter anymore if you can create something new, because you can abstract all the fundamental, the highest degree of density you can have over the variation of data, then everything is solved. But then obviously you have the issue, this fundamental issue, which is the whole algorithm structure based on the data, which is based on the self-fulfilling prophecy cycle of the feedback loop system between data and the geometrical structure of the electromagnetic field that makes up the neural network. So at any moment there, and this is the thing that I'm not sure, because one of the key points of human intelligence, I think, is the collective consciousness, which is because there are so many nodes in different environments, they fit. But then I thought about this as well, which is it doesn't change anything from the only thing that changes is the rate of computation from biological to silicon, but it's pretty much the same pattern because you're gonna have multiple different algorithms as well, machine learning algorithms that are constructed based on the environment that they are at, and the only thing that changes is that the geometry of computation is gonna be different because it's based on silicon, but it's pretty much the same pattern where you do have some intuition, I think, with machine learning because you're gonna have this broad network of computers, and that's why I think that the AGI is gonna be born out of the intersection between blockchain and artificial intelligence, because there needs to be a protocol of communication between them in order to reach a higher consensus because of this whole pattern of self-fulfilling prophecy that you can only have common sense and archetypes based on the connection at a higher level of all the nodes in the network to create. And that's the reason why I have left and right on politics. Like, it's kind of dumb to argue for left or right, because left is right and right is left is a paradoxical symmetry. And the reason why people argue is because the argument itself is the computation of the geometry of the environment. So it's a frequency of change that matters in relationship to the environment to see if it's sustainable or not over the long term, I think. So what people actually are arguing about is the frequency, which is depends on the context, which goes towards infinity. That's why there's never a clear answer, because their variables are always infinite. But then what becomes better and better is the rate of computation, I think, which comes with artificial intelligence. So different artificial intelligence agents, like let's say you have a artificial intelligence on the left and artificial intelligence on the right, and they balance themselves out to get to a synthesis of the both sides based on a Nash equilibrium strategy over the geometry of the environment. But that's only possible if you have a protocol of communication between them and if you have different algorithms that fit the data differently in relationship to the environment. And then the question is, what is the optimal way to structure the geometry of this connection so that it takes into account the most amount of different environments that exist? Because that's the main fundamental problem, where you can't predict how unique the environment is going to be because it's not computationally reducible. So yeah. But I think this is what's happening now, where everything is going to be done by AI very soon because everyone is going to use AI to gain a competitive edge, which is the arms race. But that competitive edge is relativistic because it's the pattern that I talked about, where it creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's kind of like the more similar something becomes, the more is going to be the urge to do something different, let's say. So you always have the potential and pattern and AI and these, because that's the trade-off that I'm talking about. Because it's a lot easier to do it, there's everyone follows the path of least resistance at first, but then there's a natural force of the universe to create the balance in the symmetry because it's always potential and patterns. So if you have too much patterns, it's going to be a force that is going to incentivize potential. So, and that's the problem with AI because it accelerates this process of creating the too much patterns, because too much patterns is equivalent in what I'm talking about here of everyone using the AI, because everything is going to become the same because everyone is using AI to create the content. But the content that AI is creating is based on the whole intelligence of the collective consciousness, which builds the internet. And then because everyone is using AI, then that creates a new stimulus of the environment of people that are experience AI because they are being shaped by the algorithm, and creates this feedback loop system. And then the frequency of the feedback loop system increases exponentially because of the power of AI, which creates this natural polarization, which creates this simplification of the whole internet into becoming this thing that everyone is the same. And that creates the natural incentivation, let's say, or natural push towards the other direction, which is to be more authentic and to stand out from all the mass of information, let's say. So that's what the thing, but the nuance here, the thing that is difficult to figure out is the timing, because that's what matters, I think. So it could be the case that you're better off to do your own thing because that's going to stand out in the future because everyone's going to use AI. Also, I don't buy the argument that if you create AI content that Google is going to figure out that you have AI content. I think that's just adversarial dynamics that is going to happen, and that's the natural rate of evolution. The whole politics thing that I was talking about of left and right, because you have two sides, then they're computing the environment based on these exploitation techniques, and they arrive at a relativistic Nash equilibrium based on the intelligence of their collective, which computes what the Nash equilibrium is, which is always relative because there is no Nash equilibrium because a space of potential is infinite. So there's always more variations that you can have. So if Google tries to make AI content rank lower, it's going to be impossible to some point because it's just like chess, where you can't really tell if the person is not dumb and they know how to play chess. You can never really tell if they're cheating or not because they're gonna just cheat on one or two moves and one or two crucial moves, and they're gonna know how to cheat in a way that is not detectable. And this is what's gonna happen here as well, where essentially that this content generation things are like alpha zero in chess, and then obviously you're gonna have a bunch of dumb people that just copy this stuff and they get taken down by Google or other ranking systems. But then eventually it's gonna become everything AI, I think, because you can't really run away from that because the information is just better. But then it brings the question of what is gonna be the data gateway for the AI, and that's the critical mass thing that I was talking about. Because you can only build the artificial intelligence from now, from this point at least, and I think even in the future, based on the computational gates that create the whole structure of the internet, which are the biological bodies. So the biological computation of the collective consciousness creates the internet through these gates of information, because data is the parsing of an impulse in the environment in relationship to the electromagnetic field of the body that makes up information. And then once that information gets passed around between all of human beings, that's what the internet is, which is the signals of impulses. So the structure of the informational field is the consequence of the data of the environment parsed by the computational geometry of the collective consciousness. And then that's what creates the AI. But then if everyone starts using the AI, then you change fundamentally the structure of the data that is creating the structure of the geometry of the collective consciousness, because it is a feedback loop cycle. So the question is whether or not this change is gonna corrupt the system, because, and this is the stuff that I was talking about the critical mass, because if you have enough data that you can predict that it doesn't really matter the changes of the system, because you have so much data that the density of that informational system is so high that it doesn't matter if, because you can pretty much overfit, and it wouldn't be possible for you to get a better. So in other words, you would get the Nash equilibrium by overfitting the data, because you have so much data that the density is high enough to predict everything that is possible to predict based on the environment that we have now. Then it doesn't matter, because AI already has all the data. So it doesn't matter that everything is created by AI, and that changes the impulses, because it's already encoded into the fundamental structure of the universe and the laws of physics and things like that. But I don't think that's the case. But maybe, yeah, maybe it is the case. I'm not really sure. Yeah, but what that means, I think, because this is the problem, because then where does creativity come from? I think because it's gonna be a lack of alignment. I think it's a problem of creativity and alignment, because it doesn't matter if actually if it overfits the data and has enough data, then it's already trained on what human beings, the informational system that maps to the collective consciousness of human beings. So it is, in a sense, aligned with the information system that we have, because it's built on top of it. But then, yeah, that's the question, because with time, the data changes, because the impulses changes. And then it becomes, yeah, that's the problem, I think, because it might become a vicious cycle. And that's the thing that I was trying to talk about the nature of the collective consciousness. The intelligence of the collective consciousness is that you have left and right, because then you can create these adversarial dynamics and compute the Nash equilibrium of the environment, which is not perfect, because human beings are not intelligent enough to compute the Nash equilibrium properly, but it's pretty good. Human beings are not scalable. I think that we think on tribes, so the limit of our hardware is 150 people, around 150 people, and that's the reason why I have wars, because this mechanism is not scalable. But through AI and this whole process I talk about, then it's going to create this self-fulfilling prophecy, which is this feedback loop system, and then it becomes too narrow, because it doesn't have collective consciousness. It stops receiving all the diversity of data that makes up the resilience of the structure based on these adversarial dynamics between different people computing the structure of the system, which is pretty much, I think, is a relationship between electrons and protons. This dynamic of left and right is just the energy spectrum that is the multifractal essence of the universe, one of the fundamental laws of physics. Yeah, so the question is what happens when you change the rate of computation, and then the feedback loop system becomes the self-fulfilling prophecy, where there's no new information, let's say, because the AI is ranking only content based on AI. So, and I think that's the key. If the AI is not grounded in enough information to be sustainable, so that this feedback loop system doesn't deviate through time to become authoritarian or dictator, not sure how to the best way to say that. That's the tendency I think that human beings have, and I think that's the tendency that the market economy pushes through the arms race because of this problem of scalability of the collective consciousness. With more power, it tends to deviate towards the centralization, over centralization of the system, which becomes dictatorship. And I think that's the path we are going towards because that's the nature of market economies. The more asymmetry of power you have and more asymmetry of money, it just dominates because everything becomes easier for that entity that has the power and the money because they can use that to outcompete everyone. And that relationship is based on this and the power and in this frequency of the cycle of left and right being computing the regulation of the system. And then I think that's the fundamental problem because AI doesn't solve that. It just accelerates that based on the current artificial intelligence models we have, I think. So it's just increasing the frequency of the process of polarizing more and more instead of computing based on fundamental structures of the universe and the laws of physics over the massive amount of data that it can get to create something that is sustainable over the longest amount of time possible. Because it takes into account the vast majority of outcomes or the most not sure how to say that. It takes into account the most amount of possible outcomes based on the informational system we have today.
Full blog post. I'm going to put a listicle as well. I'll give you the target keyword, or the title will be best cashmere sweater brands. Okay, this is from the tool. The tool gave me the idea for this blog post. Remember, I just showed you it's right here. Best cashmere sweater brands. From this title, create a markdown. No, okay, we don't want that. We don't want this either. So we get rid of this as well. We get rid of clustering. Get rid of column. Get rid of meta description. We get rid of basic stuff. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the H2 titles of the article will be, and then you'd say like introduction, and then you would say something like why are cashmere sweaters so popular, and then I'm just going to go back here. Okay, no, it's already brands. So I'm focusing on brands. The reason I'm focusing on brands, you don't have to focus on brands and focus just on colors of cashmere sweaters. It depends what you sell. Okay, but we sell brands, and our brands have cashmere sweaters. Okay, so that's why I'm focusing on brands. So all I'm doing is I'm going on clothing, I'm going on sweaters. Okay, and actually I can't do this because I don't have the filter. So what I'm doing instead is I'm going to type in cashmere sweater on the search, and then I'm going to click on brands, and you can see I've already written this article. It's right here. So I know that Brunello Cucinelli, Cesare Attalini, Fioni, Gran Sasso, Kiton, and Marco Pistolo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 brands. Okay, so the title would be the best 6 cashmere sweater brands in the world. The H2 titles of the article were the introduction, why are cashmere sweaters so popular, and then all I did was I just took these here and I put them into the AI. You will have to delete some things if you're using Shopify, obviously. So I'm just going to do this. Okay, so that's the base of the article, and then I'm going to put another comment and put conclusion.
Yeah, let me write this down. I'm gonna do this thing for the article. But I think for my situation, for this article specifically, it doesn't really matter. But because I can just tell me to list the 30 most popular. Let me do that now. I have to understand how to use this tool as well. I'm not sure which one should get or to test. Interesting. Yeah, then this is really good. It's actually insane. I'm not sure if I want to use graphs on the thing though. That's the problem. Because with Midjourney, it's kind of bad for that. I can't really specify a graph. I guess I can get a graph on DuckDuckGo and then upload it to Midjourney and see if I can get something out of it. Or maybe I should have a folder on the project as well to have as resources. So I can put the stuff from the articles. I think it's better if I create the content first and then I look at this. Now, how do I go back though? I guess I need to create a different chat.
Conclusion with this. What I'm going to then do is I'm just going to stick this straight into ChatGPT, and if it works like it did the other day, it's going to give me a full blog post in probably less than 2 minutes. I'm going to pause the video, we'll see how this goes. It's going a little bit slow today because I think so many people are using this goddamn tool right now, but I'll leave the tool. You can see now it's 10 o'clock, we'll see what it is when it's finished. Okay, so the time is now 22:02, but what I'm going to say right off the bat is some of this information is not correct, okay? I'm pretty sure Antonio Gran Sasso does not exist, for example. Maybe he does, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't. Yeah, you can see that this particular one is not true. The reason for that is Gran Sasso is not a famous brand. Cesare Gattolini is an incredibly famous brand. This information is correct. Brunello Cucinelli, incredibly famous brand. This information is correct. Dupont, probably the most famous classic menswear brand ever. This information is 100% correct. 1960s by Ciro Paoli. That's correct. This Marco Pescarolo is also correct. It was founded by a guy called Marco Pescarolo. But Gran Sasso one, I'm pretty sure is not correct. And Gran Sasso, I don't think, was founded by someone called Antonio Gran Sasso. So what I'm going to say first of all is you need to know the niche, and also you can see why this is why AI will not fully take over from people, at least yet. Okay. But what it does give me is an article, okay, of, let's see how many words. A tip here is to Control, Shift, and V when you paste so that it doesn't do any weird formatting. Let's do word count 511 words, okay? Interestingly enough, as I said before, I wrote this exact article already, and let's see if it's on Google. I'm pretty sure it's on Google. I actually can't remember if this one is on Google. It's a look. Should be. I'm pretty sure it's on Google. And again, that doesn't mean it's getting traffic, but it has been on Google for a few days. So let's do a live test and see if it's got any impressions yet. So what I'm going to do is this Google Search Console if you don't know what I'm doing. You click on New and then click on Page, and then you Control V of the article. 6 impressions, that's not even bad. Honestly, that's not even bad. I think this article is like, I think I wrote it yesterday. I was yesterday, January 10th, 2 days ago. I wrote this article 2 days ago. If you know anything about SEO, the fact that it already has 6 impressions is really, really good. And if I do most recent date, you're kidding me. You're kidding me. That's actually insane. Wait, nah. I shouldn't be giving this. I should be selling this information. Honestly, I honestly should be selling this. I should not be giving this away. And this is another article I wrote by AI as well. I'm just going to release this video, guys, before I decide to never release it. This video, if you watch this from beginning to the end, will give you the tools that you need to make an insane amount of articles very, very quickly. This works really well with these listicle articles for e-commerce stores that you are selling. You're selling brands, you're selling types of jeans, best 5 types of jeans, whatever it might be. Let's just do a very quick check before we go on Search Console. I'm going to click on New Page. URL contains best and hit enter. 196 impressions. All of these articles that you can see were written by me, by AI in the last 2 weeks. They're already getting a crap ton of impressions, guys. Look at that. That's the end of this video. One more thing before I go. If you know anything about SEO, this website is brand new. It's brand new and it's already going very, very well. I should be selling this information. I shouldn't be giving it away, but you guys know me. I like to give things away for free. Thanks for watching and peace out.
So I didn't understand really well
This
how,
is all AI. Okay, I've written everything getting any traffic yet, but this article here, two-men.it.
because I guess you got the article from this. Then I get the word from here, and then I create the. Yeah, maybe I should be doing the articles with this instead of doing the ones that I'm thinking about. Do these ones first because the chances of them ranking is higher. So just follow the process that this guy is doing, and then once I have a bunch of different articles, then I can think about what to do next. And then obviously I'm gonna research this stuff as I read. I'm not gonna fully copy ChatGPT. I'm just gonna research, see if the information is right or not. So let me see what he does
Two-minute Talia, and if I scroll down and
after
if I
that.
go on this article here, okay, I wrote this article in 3 minutes using ChatGPT. I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. But is this prompt down so we can see how we can use it and how we can abuse it, and I'm going to show you how we can. The idea is the better the prompt, the better the outputs, which means there's a huge difference between saying write me quick and very easy blog posts using this tool. Go on Google and type in AIPRM Chrome extension. Download this Chrome extension and then go to ChatGPT. This tool adds these prompts for SEOs. But what I actually want to show you is how these prompts work and why they're going to change SEO forever. Let's just take this one here, keyword strategy. So click on keyword strategy. I typed in the other day best sweaters and I pressed enter. What I learned from this tool blew my mind. Firstly, it can create tables, which I didn't know before. You can see this is completely insane. But what's even more interesting is the way that these prompts work. And prompts are going to be the #1 skill when it comes to AI in the future. You mark my words, prompts. What are prompts? Prompts are the way that we talk to AI. They're basically instructions for the AI, okay? So the idea is the better the prompt, the better the outputs, which means there's a huge difference between saying, write me some good keywords for best sweaters like I did before, or using these prompts. The thing is, it seems like you can't see what the prompt is here. I actually worked out exactly how to see the prompt here. So I'm going to press continue here so it just stops writing, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this save, I'm going to click off it, and then I'm going to click on this content plan. This is the prompt, guys. Look how insane this prompt is. Let's break this prompt down so we can see how we can use it and how we can use it, and I'm going to show you how we can get ChatGPT to write a very concise and very good article. So I want you to act as a market research expert that speaks and writes fluent English. Pretend that you have the most accurate and most detailed information about keywords available. Pretend that you're able to develop a full SEO content plan in English. I will give you the target keyword best sweaters. From this keyword, create a markdown. Markdown is HTML without the coding, basically. Table with a keyword list for an SEO content strategy plan on the topic best sweaters. Cluster the keywords according to the top 10 supercategories and name the supercategory in the first column called keyword cluster. This is best sweaters, that's the cluster. Best cashmere sweaters, okay? Best sweaters for men, best sweaters for women, best wool sweaters, best sweater brands, out of care for wool sweaters, etc., etc. Add in another column with 7 subcategories, each keyword cluster, specific long tail keywords for each clusters. List in another column the human search intent of the keyword. Commercial, these are all going to be by keywords, okay? This is informational, the rest of them are bio keywords. Then in another column, write a simple but very quick and concise title to use for a blog post about that keyword. Then in another column, write an attractive meta description. Okay? This already is a service that you can sell to people for hundreds of dollars. Just this table alone, you can then back it up with the keyword research using Google AdWords, keyword planner, whatever it might be. I guarantee you that this content created here is already good enough to sell. Okay? And let me show you an example of this. So you may or may not know that I am a professional SEO for a company. I recently created this entire website for the company that I'm working for. The website I made is two-men.it or 2 Men Italia. And if I scroll down and if I go on this article here, okay, I wrote this article in 3 minutes using ChatGPT. I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. But is this article on Google? I actually don't know because I haven't checked since I uploaded this article, but we are about to find out. Of course, it's on Google. That's amazing news. That doesn't mean it's getting any traffic yet, but it does mean that the article has been indexed on Google, which means it's now available for getting traffic. Everything you see here, this is all AI. Okay, I've written everything with either ChatGPT or Jasper, depending on how far back you go. But most of it is ChatGPT. So what I actually worked out was that the most useful thing we can learn for ChatGPT is actually the prompt. A lot of people are worried that their job is going to be taken. Okay, and I understand that you think that your job is going to be taken. But I have 2 points to make against that. Number one is if your job is at risk from AI, you are not good enough at your job. Okay, so you're not good enough. What does that mean? That means I am a professional content writer, I'm a professional SEO. I have no fear that my job will be taken by AI because I'm good enough at my job that my boss will need me at least for the next 5 years until they create some kind of super AI robot that does literally everything.
The other thing about this is that it doesn't matter if you're good enough or not because the more people that lose their jobs, the more competitive everything else becomes as well. So it's like a race to the bottom, and AI becomes exponentially better as well with time. So I think something needs should be done. Like it doesn't matter which way you think about it, eventually, and it's gonna happen a lot faster, I think, than people realize because we're not very good at predicting innovation. Because the rates of which AI gets better, and even if you are good, let's say you're on the top 2% or 1% of your field, if a bunch of other people get unemployed, and then all of the other areas on society become more competitive because there's a bunch more people looking for those jobs, and everyone starts uh, receiving less money as well. I guess that the people that are at the 1% would receive a lot more money, but because everyone else doesn't have money, it breaks up the whole system, I think. Because the whole point of money is to create a responsibility structure. So to decide, to compute without having to know all the variables, who should do what based on our environment. And that's why it's so good and efficient because it's scalable. So you don't need to know everything about the environment. You just you create this abstraction called supply and demand, and then you let that abstraction decide who's going to be responsible for what. And the supply is the prefrontal cortex, which is the conscious part of our brain. And the demand is the limbic system, which is the animal part, the bridge between the subconscious and the conscious, which handles the emotions. So it's pretty much the market economy is, I think, the exemplification of the reproduction pattern of behavior. And the nature of markets is the computation of this reproduction pattern. And it is scalable, but then politics and regulations are not scalable because of the number. We are limited to around 150 people, and then we can't evolve. We can't reach coordination past that, and that's why it becomes unbalanced because there's no the regulation force is not strong enough or coordinated enough or fast enough to keep up with the pace of evolution from the market economy. So the whole system depends on the feedback loop system. So like essentially it doesn't matter. That's the point. It doesn't matter how good or bad you are, even if you are the owner of the business. It's still a massive problem because it's all about the critical points where because there's always people that are unemployed and homeless, and most people make don't make a lot of money, but it's not the it's about the percentages and the degrees, like the gradient of the tipping point where that raises the tension too much in society and creates a war, I think. So you can be making $5 billion a day, but it doesn't matter if nobody agrees that you make that and everyone picks up guns and starts killing each other. So
Everything to do with SEO. But my second argument against that is you have to adapt.
unless you have a bunch of robots that control everyone and that are autonomous and can, yeah. But even then, that goes into the other problem that I was talking about, where it becomes a vicious cycle because dictatorship corrupts itself because it's not sustainable, because it doesn't have breadth of knowledge, it doesn't have wisdom, which is the nature of the collective consciousness. And that's the whole pattern of the feedback loop system that I was talking about before, where the moment you have the AI incentivizing AI creating content for AI, it might become blindsided because it starts rationalizing. It's like a famous person that someone that is born famous because their sense of reality gets broken because the feedback they're receiving is not sustainable. It's not sustainable because it doesn't have breadth of knowledge, let's say, or impulses. It's like when someone is surrounded by yes men, they get into this delusional state, and that's the same thing that happens when you have too much centralization. And I think that's the point we are going towards, where you have AI incentivizing AI, but because there's no more breadth of knowledge, then it gets short-sighted into that cycle and eventually corrupts itself and destroys itself. But that depends on whether or not the density of information that makes up the system is high enough that it doesn't matter that it gets into this feedback loop system, because the feedback loop system is integrated with all the information of the collective consciousness that takes into account all the not all the possibilities, but a very large amount of possibilities over the potential of change from the environment for a very long time. So even if it gets delusional, let's say in a sense, it doesn't matter because its delusion is bounded by so much information that it would take a lot of time for that or an unpredictable event to change the fundamental structure of that information. And at that point, it doesn't matter anymore because then that means you wouldn't be able to create a system anyway to predict that new structure of information because that would go against the nature of systems as well. So you can't predict an outlier by using scientific thinking or any kind of thinking because that goes against the paradigm itself.
Adapt. What does that mean? That means that you can become the expert in AI. Okay, prompts is going to be a huge niche. Being able to create prompts that give people the content they want is a crucial skill in the AI revolution, and it is a revolution, guys. I'll tell you that right now. So what I actually did was I took this prompt and I turned it into something that would give me exactly what I was looking for. Okay, let me show you how I did that. So what I did was instead of saying, whoever made this wrote details incorrectly, which really annoys me for some reason. Pretend you are able to develop a full blog post. I'm going to put a list as well. I'll give you the target keyword, or the title will be best cashmere sweater brands. Okay, this is from the tool. The tool gave me the idea for this blog post. Remember, I showed you it's right here. Best cashmere sweater brands. From this title, create a markdown. No, okay, we don't want that. We don't want this either. So we get rid of this as well. We get rid of clustering. Get rid of column. Get rid of meta description. We get rid of everything else. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say
Yeah, so I'm gonna do the same thing he's doing there. So he got one of these ones, I think. I think I will do graph theory. This is the one that I'm most interested about.
the H2 title of the article will be, and then you say like introduction, and then you say
To be honest, all I can think now is to change the layout of the site because I know that based on the feedback that I received is not good, so I have to change it. And that's the thing that I'm concerned the most. So I think I'm gonna do this article really fast, and then after I do the article, I'm gonna change everything, I think, and start studying on how to change that.
something like why are cashmere sweaters so popular, and I'm just going to go back here. Okay.
Also, I'm thinking about buying a domain as well, because it's probably better to do that now, because if I grow everything from one domain and then let's say I start getting traffic and then I change the domain, I'm gonna have to redirect, I think, from that domain to the other one. So I think that's another thing that I have in my mind, which I'm probably gonna do. So I'm gonna write one article and then do that. And also I'm thinking about ways to, I'm gonna search, I think, for ways to write the article. How to write, mark, last place to write markdown. Write everything down uh, somewhere, because here is not very good. I wanna. There's probably a tool for this, I imagine. And again, the reason why I'm resistant using WordPress is because I wanna have the freedom, and I think it's gonna be worth it because WordPress is first everyone does with WordPress, and it's old stuff, I think. It uses PHP and jQuery. So I think there in the future, if I do things like this, it might be possible for me to optimize, maybe use Rust and WebAssembly at some point to make the site faster. And that is going to give me an edge, I think, over everyone else. But yeah, the downside is that uh, writing the markdown there, I think is pretty bad. So hopefully I can find a tool which I think probably exists, that allow me to write the markdown somewhere else and then just post the file there. Because the problem is the styling and the structure of everything that I want to be consistent across the articles. Maybe I'll just write here anyway. And fuck it. I'm gonna erase all this stuff because this is from the article that the other guy wrote. And the biggest issue here is that doing these lines here, I think I can just keep them here, but then the problem is that they change the structure of the article itself. But I think as long as I do the same thing for all of them, then it doesn't matter probably. So I think I'm gonna do it here, and then I'm just gonna stop. I'm gonna create a new line every time I reach the end point here. So it's not annoying to write it. Yeah, the problem is when I have links though, like this, because then the lines are gonna be messed up there. I think this is the annoying parts in the beginning as well, to figure this stuff out. That's the whole thing I was talking about before on the other videos as I was building the blog, is that I wanted to start writing the articles fast because I knew that it would be a pain in the ass in the beginning to get get this right, the structure, and understand how I'm gonna do this to create each article, and then after a couple of them, it should get easier and easier to write it because it's gonna get into my subconscious state, and I'm gonna figure out a system to do it. But in the beginning, it's always hard. And it looks like it's gonna be hard to find because everyone just gonna talk about the same thing, which is the front matter stuff and how to make it work, but not the structure of it. I think I'm gonna continue to watch this video first and then create the thing here using ChatGPT. Then once I have it, then I can ask ChatGPT for the tools. Hopefully it's gonna give me something.
It's already brands. So I'm focusing on brands. The reason I'm focusing on brands, you don't have to focus on brands. You can focus just on colors of cashmere sweaters. It depends why our cashmere.
Yeah, no, that's the issue. I need the title first. So I'm gonna get this stuff here. Oh, the title is here. So let me go back. And now the issue, I'm not sure.
Sweaters. So popular. And then I'm just going to go back here. Okay, no, it's already brands. So I'm focusing on brands. The reason I'm focusing on brands, you don't have to focus on brands. You focus just on colors of cashmere sweaters. It depends what you sell. Okay, but we sell brands, and our brands have cashmere sweaters. Okay, so that's why I'm focusing on brands. So all I'm doing is I'm going on clothing, I'm going on sweaters. Okay, and actually I can't do this because I don't have the filter. So what I'm doing instead is I'm going to type in cashmere sweater on search. And then I'm going to click on brands. And you can see I've already written this article. It's right here. So I know that Brunello Cucinelli, Cesare Attalini, Fioroni, Gran Sasso, Chiton, and Marco Pistolo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 brands. Okay, so that would be the best 6 cashmere sweater brands in the world. The HQ titles of the article, introduction, why cashmere sweaters are so popular, and then all I did was I just took these here and I put them into the AI. You will have to delete some things using Shopify, obviously. So I'm just going to do this. Okay, so that's the base of the article, and then I'm going to comment and put conclusion with this. What I'm going to then do is I'm just going to stick this straight into ChatGPT, and if it works like it did the other day, it's going to give me a full blog post in probably.
Yeah, so now what I'm gonna do is get the graphs and then I put there and I do the same thing as he's doing.
Than 2 minutes. I'm going to pause the video, we'll see how this goes. It's going to look this slow today because I think so many people are using this goddamn tool right now, but I'll leave this tool. You can see now it's 10 o'clock, we'll see what it is when it's finished. Okay, so the time is now 22:02, but what I'm going to say right off the bat is some of this information is not correct. Okay, I'm pretty sure Antonio Gran Sasso does not exist, for example. Maybe he does, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't. Yeah, you can see that this particular one is not true. The reason for that is Gran Sasso is not a famous brand. Cesare Attalini is an incredibly famous brand. This information is correct. Brunello Cucinelli, incredibly famous brand. This information is correct. Chiton, probably the most famous classic menswear brand ever. This information is 100% correct. 1960s by Ciro Paoli. That's correct. This Marco Pistolo is also correct. It was founded by Marco Pistolo. But Gran Sasso one, I'm pretty sure is not correct. And Gran Sasso, I think, was founded by someone called Antonio Gran Sasso. So what I'm going to say first of all is you need to know the niche, and also you can see why this is why AI will not fully take over from people, at least yet. Okay, but what it does give me is an article, okay, of, let's see how many words. A tip here is to control, shift, and V when you paste so that it doesn't do any weird formatting. Let's do word count 511 words, okay? Interestingly enough, as I said before, I wrote this exact article already, and let's see if it's on Google. I'm pretty sure it's on Google. I just can't remember if this one is on Google. Let's have a look. Should be. I'm pretty sure it's on Google. And again, that doesn't mean it's getting traffic, but it has been on Google for a few days. So let's do a live test and see if it's got any impressions yet. So what I'm going to do is just Google Search Console if you don't know what I'm doing. You click on New, and then click on Page, and then you control V of the article. 6 impressions, that's not even bad. Honestly, that's not even bad. I think this article is like, I think I wrote it yesterday. I wrote it yesterday. January 10th, 2 days ago. I wrote this article 2 days ago. If you know anything about SEO, the fact that it already has 6 impressions is really, really good. And if I do most recent date, you're kidding me. You're kidding me. That's actually insane. Wait. No. I shouldn't be giving this. I should be selling this information. Honestly, I honestly should be selling this. I should not be giving this away. And this is another article I wrote by AI as well. I'm just going to release this video, guys, before I decide to never release it. This video, if you watch this from beginning to the end, will give you the tools that you need to make an insane amount of articles very, very quickly. This works really well with these listicle articles for e-commerce stores that you are selling. You're selling brands, you're selling types of jeans, best 5 types of jeans, whatever it might be. Let's just do a very quick check before we go on Search Console. I'm going to click on New Page. URL contains best and hit enter. 196 impressions. All of these articles that you can see were written by me, by AI in the last 2 weeks. They're already getting a crap ton of impressions, guys. Look at that. That's the end of this video. One more thing before I go. If you know anything about SEO, this website is brand new. It's brand new and it's already going very, very well. I should be selling this information. I shouldn't be giving it away, but you guys know me. I like to give things away for free. Thanks for watching and peace out.
Obviously, I need to use this as most as possible before they start charging. I'm gonna do this first, and with the articles, the graphs that it gives me here, I'm gonna put here for the titles of the article. And then I'm gonna pass all this information there. I think what I'm gonna do actually is to try to get images from DuckDuckGo, and then I'm gonna put them on Midjourney to see if I can, if it is gonna look good or not. Let me remember how he did that.
Give me exactly what I was looking for. Okay. We get rid of basic, and then I'm just going to go back here. Sweaters. Okay. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why cashmere sweaters? What I'm going to then do is I'm just going to stick this straight into ChatGPT, and if it works like it did the other day, it's going to give me a full blog post in probably less than 2 minutes. I'm going to pause the
Oh, if fuck it up here. Hopefully it doesn't screw up the thing too much. It's pretty fucking crazy. Oh man. So I think the first thing that I'm gonna do off stream is gonna be to research how to get the link, and I'm gonna get a domain name and then put the domain name there. It's probably the best. Then the second thing that I'm gonna do is to put past this article. I'm gonna try to use ChatGPT, I think, to see if there's any other ways to structure the MDX content so that I always have the same style, let's say. I think there probably is a tool somewhere in the internet that allows you to do that, where you write MDX and is always the same. Hopefully I can find the free one. So I'm gonna do these things, and then I'm gonna, after I have the first article, then I'm gonna start working on changing the whole layout of the website, removing the images, and I'm gonna not search for, I'm gonna use the stuff that I got from the other guy. I think it is Leo Robson or something like that. On how to optimize for SEO, I'm also gonna do that to do SEO optimization. Once I have everything, all of these things done, then I can go back to. I'm gonna follow this whole process here that he did, and I'm gonna try to write as many articles as possible using ChatGPT and doing this process here. That's the plan, I think. Then once I have a bunch of articles, then I'll think about. Obviously, as I do the articles, I'm gonna study myself to see if it makes sense. But the thing is, for my situation, is slightly different than what he did because I'm gonna have to search more, I think, because I wanna get all the algorithms for all of them and show the algorithms for each one. This is gonna take more work. Yeah, let me think. I think I can search for. I'm undecided, honestly, if it's worth it to get the WordPress thing. Because it is gonna allow me to do everything much faster, I think. And you can all have a bunch of different plugins and then just get everything that I need. But then the only downside is that I can't change the code then, I think. Maybe I can change the code, but it's not gonna be like I think it's gonna handicap me on the long term. And I am planning to I am expecting it to take a long time to rank and to grow, I think. It's really hard to decide. Yeah, there's no videos about this. Or maybe Gatsby is. I remember seeing on the documentation, TMUI, but I think if I'm not mistaken, I have to pay for this stuff here. I think it's just a database thing. It's not related to Markdown. And the issue if I search for a CMS is that I remember that I have to do some things there to style the CMS on the Teams UI, which might be annoying. I think I have to use another object or something like that. Maybe I can use TeamUI though. That's another thing. I can just put everything on tags and then I can use TeamUI to structure the size of the each tag. I think that's a good idea. Because then, so for example, I can put something like this. Yeah, I can use a custom component. Yeah, that's why I didn't think about this. So because then let's say I have a bunch of stuff here. So instead of having to write like this until this point every time, I can just wrap this stuff on the whatever component I put here, and then I can create the style with the UI at the root level. Here, I do something like this where I put the p tag here, and then I do the props thing, and then I create a component. I put whatever max width or things like that. I think that's what I'm gonna do. This seems to be the best solution, I think. So I'm gonna write the article first, and then I'll do that, and then I see how it looks and develop like that. The only downside is that I'm gonna have to wrap everything from based on the component, but I think it's not a problem. I think I wanna see if ChatGPT also allows me to do this excerpt here and the tags. Oh, in conclusion. Okay, so let's get all this stuff. Obviously, I'm gonna format it after and also verify the. I'm gonna read everything, then verify if it's good or not, then add it. And I think this is enough. I'm not gonna put the remainder part here. And then what I'm gonna do additionally is to write the. I think I can't use p tags because they they give a problem on Next.js when you put child components. So I have to think. I maybe I'll use a normal div or something like that. I have to look into which things are acceptable on the styles, because you can only create components based on the whatever you can get here. And I don't want to change H1 and H2 because I'm probably gonna use the markdown syntax for that. It's gonna change the markdown syntax as well. And so let me put the two things here. I think this is one, and the other ones aren't sure. First, I want to see how it looks if I don't do any styling, just to have an idea. But I think the best approach is gonna be that, where I just wrap everything. So I do H2 tags like this, and then I wrap everything inside of a component that I create a standard, and I use as a standard thing to create a layout. So I should change the name of this thing. I'm not sure if this is good. Yeah, let me see how it looks. Hmm, weird. So what's the difference between this one and the one that I did? 'Cause in this one, it doesn't show like it does there. Maybe the way, maybe I have to put the name with. But I remember testing with space, so I think that's not the problem. Yeah, it's not the problem. So it's something else. Fuck. Yeah, I don't understand. MDX, MDX. What's wrong here? Oh, it's the way that I put the tags, maybe. because I put this thing here. So maybe this should be two things. Because if I put only one, it thinks that is the article. No, still. So maybe, but I don't remember changing this file, that's the thing. It shouldn't be the levels because I remember testing one level deeper as well. So the paths are working. So it's something to do with the MDX here. Hmm. Oh, I changed to this thing here. Let me think about it. Yeah, because now I'm using the page. That's the only thing that I changed. So let me change here and see if it works. I'm still receiving empty object there. It can't be the way that I wrote the article because it's the same thing, pretty much. And it also is receiving, so it has to be something about the metadata. So it has to be something with the data here, the source. Yeah, it is getting the file, I think. So why isn't converting? Yeah, it does get the data as well, the contents. Or maybe because I put in two lines here. That might be the reason. I'm not really sure. But hmm. Yeah, now and the reason why is this on this width, I think is because of the way that I wrote here. And that's the problem I was talking about. So it's interesting to know that it has to be on the same line here. But if I do it like this, let's see. If we change this, it's probably gonna change. Yeah. And it's still a lot shorter, or not sure how to say that, but I think if I create the component, it's gonna solve this, I think. Oh, it's still the same. That's really weird. Let me go to the other one and see if what happens. Yeah, this one it looks better. Yeah, the only difference between the two is the way that is structured there. But it should be changing the width when I put everything on the same line. I don't know what's going on. This is what I said when I say that this stuff is weird when it comes to the styling, because it's hard to understand what's going on. And I had problems with this as well when I was trying to put the sidebar on the other thing, the other on the side of the article. And let me change this one. It doesn't change anything. I'm trying to figure out is how, because obviously if the problem is not on the file, it's on the in the component here on the styling. But I'm trying to understand how the it has to do with these components. It must do because this is the one that has the content. So I have to understand how the styling of this works. Maybe it's the image. Could be the image. Are the links? Yeah, I think, but still weird because on the other one the size is bigger than the image. And I should create a button to go back and forth. It's quite annoying to go to the top to go back. Yeah, the image is smaller than the container. That's what I don't understand. Or maybe just the size of the title could be that. But not sure if that makes sense. Yeah, it's probably not that. The way that I'm probably gonna solve it is the way that I talked about, where creating components for everything and then wrapping everything on a component so that I always have the same style. But I want to understand how how this works because it doesn't make any sense to me. I think what makes sense is that what I think is probably wrong is this MDX remote here. Like there's something that happens here that changes the style and that I don't understand. But it's hard to find information about this. Probably the best way then to do it is to figure out the components first. Yeah, what I'm trying to decide which things to do first. To decide the style of the thing or to change the layout of the website. Because I'm gonna need to make it responsive as well. I think the layout's better because it's gonna change everything, I think. Because it's a waste of time if I figure out how to style here and then I change the layout and then it changes the text again. So then I have to redo it. And I also have to add a back button here so that it goes one level above. or so it goes back. I think I'm gonna work on this off stream. I'm gonna change the layout first, and then I'm going to see the versatile domain thing, and after that, then I'll structure the article, which is probably gonna be through the doing the component and then just wrapping the text inside of whatever component. I'm gonna create a component for text. I think I already had got one from a project. Yeah, this one. I'm probably gonna use this one. But the issue with the p tag is that I can't put anything. Let me test here. Yeah, that's the thing. It has a hydration problem when you put. And so figure out off stream. And like I said, I'm gonna redo the layout first, and then I'll think about this. And the way that I'm probably gonna write content is the way that I did today. Just use ChatGPT and the tool that guy talked about. And